The moment I stepped into that hotel ballroom, a weight settled in my chest. It wasn't the buzz of conversation or the clinking of champagne glasses. It wasn't the polished smiles of people trying too hard to impress each other. No, it was her. Claire. My wife of 8 years. The woman I had trusted with every vulnerable part of myself. She stood only a few meters away, her lips pressed firmly against another man's. It wasn't a quick, drunken mistake you could excuse as confusion in a dimly lit room. No. It was deliberate. Her hand rested gently on his chest, as if it belonged there. In that instant, I felt something deep inside me fracture. Not loud, not violent, but quietly, like a crack spreading through glass. I didn't explode. I didn't shout or create a scene like you'd expect in a movie. Instead, I walked forward slowly, each step heavy, each breath tight. When I was close enough that my words wouldn't have to fight against the hum of the crowd, I spoke. You just ended our marriage, I said, my voice steady but sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. Claire froze, the blood draining from her face. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The man beside her, a tall, well-groomed executive type I faintly remembered from photos she'd once shown me, immediately pulled back. Panic flashed across his face. He didn't defend her, didn't defend himself. He simply slipped into the crowd like a shadow trying to hide. But Claire, she turned to me, eyes wide, and whispered 2 words that shook me more than the kiss itself. You're wrong. Those words echoed in my mind as we drove home in silence. The hum of the engine was the only sound. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, gripping it like letting go would mean collapsing. Claire sat beside me, staring out the window, as distant as a stranger. Finally, I asked, my voice low but edged with fire. Who is he? She hesitated, twisting the strap of her clutch in her hands. It's not what you think, Daniel. I almost laughed at how cliché it sounded. Not what I think. I had seen her mouth on his, her hand against his chest. I had seen the look in her eyes, the look that once belonged to me. Then explain it, I said, steady but burning inside. Because from where I stood, my wife was kissing another man at her company's gala. Explain how that isn't betrayal. She exhaled, her breath shaky, her excuse practiced. It was a mistake. He leaned in. I didn't. Claire. I cut her off. I saw your hand on his chest. Her silence after that was louder than anything she could have said. The following days blurred together, filled with half-truths and flimsy excuses. She repeated that it just happened, that it was a moment of weakness, that she wasn't thinking. Yet when I asked her to cut ties with him, she refused. His name was Ryan. Her team leader. The man she'd been traveling with for work for months. Suddenly, the late nights, the carefully chosen outfits, the laughter over texts she never shared. All of it made sense. I wanted so badly to believe her. To cling to the idea that it had only been that one kiss, that one mistake. But deep down I knew better. That kiss wasn't the beginning. It was the unveiling. One evening, while she showered, her phone sat charging on the coffee table. My hand hovered over it. My conscience screamed at me not to snoop. But another voice reminded me. She had already broken the trust. If there was nothing to hide, I'd find nothing. So I opened it. The truth stared back at me. Dozens, then hundreds of messages hidden in what looked like a harmless work chat. But the words were unmistakable. Miss you already. Last night was incredible. Can't wait for our next trip. Photos. Selfies. Private jokes. A life I had never been part of. My stomach turned. By the time Claire walked into the room in her robe, I was sitting there like a ghost, her phone in my hand. Daniel, she whispered, her face pale. You went through my phone. I met her eyes, my voice quiet but firm. I went through the life I thought I knew. And I found the truth. We didn't talk that night. We didn't sleep in the same bed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying 8 years of our marriage. Our vows. The home we built. The future we planned. Were they all lies? Or had she simply changed into someone I no longer recognized? The next morning, I packed a bag and left. Not out of rage, but because staying meant letting pain fester into something darker. She sent texts all day, apologies, please, explanations. I love you, Daniel. It didn't mean anything. He's no one. You're my husband. But betrayal doesn't need the other person to mean something. It's the act itself that poisons everything. A week later, she showed up at the small apartment I had rented. No makeup, no perfect presentation, just Claire, red-eyed and raw. "Please, can we talk?" she asked. I let her in. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. A distance between us that no amount of leaning could cross. "Why him?" I asked. Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know. We spent so much time together." He listened. He made me feel seen. I clenched my jaw. "So I didn't?" "That's not what I mean," she said quickly. "You're a good husband, Daniel. I got lost." I studied her, searching for the woman I once loved. But lost wasn't forgetting an anniversary. Lost wasn't building an affair in secret. And in that moment I realized something. She wasn't crying because she lost me. She was crying because she got caught. The divorce didn't happen overnight. Part of me, maybe the naive part, hoped she would truly fight for us. But her attempts were hollow. Flowers. Messages. Empty words. Never the hard choices. Never true honesty. Never cutting him off. I spoke to Ryan once. I called him from an unknown number. "You ruined my marriage," I told him. He sighed, irritated. "Look, man, it wasn't serious. She's the one who..." I hung up before he could finish. "Not serious." As if that made it easier. As if reducing my wife to nothing more than a fling dulled the knife in my chest. Months passed. The papers were signed. Friends took sides. Her family begged me to forgive her, to remember the good years. But forgiveness isn't something you hand out, because it makes other people more comfortable. 6 months later, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked worn down, thinner, dimmer somehow. "Daniel," she said softly. "I just wanted you to know. I ended things with him. It's over." I nodded. "Good for you." She looked at me, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Do you think we could ever?" "No," I said gently. "Because the night I caught you, I didn't just lose a wife. I lost the version of you I could trust never to put me in that position." Her eyes welled up, but she didn't argue. She just nodded, whispered, "I'm sorry," and walked away. It's been a year now. The pain isn't sharp anymore. It lingers more like a scar, quiet but always there, waiting to ache when the weather shifts. I've started dating again. Slowly. I don't check phones. I don't demand constant explanations. But I carry the memory like a warning sign. Trust, but not blindly. Sometimes I replay that night in the ballroom. The music, the crowd, the kiss. I remember the words I spoke. "You just ended our marriage." And her reply, "You're wrong." She wasn't wrong because we stayed together. We didn't. She was wrong because she thought denial could erase betrayal. But once someone shows you who they are in the shadows, you can never see them the same way in the light.